Located in the plains of Kaveri, Thanjavur is known as the granary of Tamil Nadu. The presence of river Kaveri has made this region very fertile and rich. It is believed that the Chola king Kavera was instrumental in diverting river Kaveri to this region from Shimoga in Karnataka. The Chola dynasty had its capital in Thanjavur since the 9th century. Those were the golden periods of Tamil culture, when the kings patronized all forms of art, especially architecture. The Cholas built a number of temples during their regime. The geographical spread of these temples suggests that most of them are in wet, irrigated areas of the Kaveri plains. Situated in the Kaveri basin, Thanjavur itself has about 72 temples. Over the years, some of these temples have become very popular with devotees, while some others just remained architectural marvels. One of the temples that the Cholas built is the Brihadishwara temple of Thanjavur, dedicated to Lord Shiva. The first temple that the Cholas built is the 9th century Nardar Malai temple near Pudukottai. Located on a hillock, this temple, now defunct, was known as the Vijayalaya Soleswaram temple. Not easily accessible even today, this temple was probably built over the Reformation of Chola Empire, attended every day by the hermits who lived in the caves next to the temple. In ancient times, hermits belonging to different sects like Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism took penance in secluded areas like these caves, which were mostly natural caverns converted into caves. The early temples were in these caves itself. Perennial water sources like this help them to survive in remote areas. Later, separate temples were built outside the caves with material available locally. With the passage of time, the temple architecture also went through many changes, from cut-out caves to structural temples. size of the temples got bigger and bigger, and today Tanjavur has one of the biggest temples in southern India, known as the Brihadishwar Temple.
Tanjavur is the capital city of the Chola Empire right from the early part of 10th century to 11th century until 1232, when Rajaraja the Great was ruling over this country. He was conquering not only the southern part of India, but also the entire portion of the Southeast Asian part. So then, over his victories, he wanted to raise a great edifice dedicated to Lord Shiva in his capital city, and therefore he started this construction work in Tanjavur as a temple dedicated to Lord Shiva.
Rajaraja Chola fought and won many wars. He was probably apprehensive of an attack on his capital city. So he not only built a huge temple complex, but also built a 7-kilometer-long moat surrounding his capital town. This moat prevented enemies from entering the temple. The outer wall of the temple complex worked as a fort and is connected to the main Gopura or the gate. The wall has numerous holes through which enemy movements can be observed and archers can make counterattacks. Inside the outer wall is another wall, which is connected to another Gopura, known as the Rajaraja Gopura. This wall is taller than the outer wall. Constructed at a later date, this wall was built with an eye on defense. Cannons could be placed on top of this wall and soldiers can throw spears on attackers. Cannons were introduced in the army in 1600 AD. Therefore, it is believed that these fortifications were made after that. It is in the Brihadishwar temple one notices for the first time two Gopuras oriented in the same direction. The main Gopura, which is connected to the outer wall, is known as the Keralantahan Gopura or the Victory Gopura. This was built by Rajaraja after he defeated Kerala king Bhaskara Ravivarma. Certain portions of its architecture are very similar to Kerala architecture. The inner Gopura is known as Rajarajan Gopura. South Indian temple architecture mainly belong to structural architecture. The Gopura or the main gate and the Vimana, the structure above the Sanctum Sanctorum, are the best examples of structural architecture. In most of the temples of Tamil Nadu, Gopura is taller than the Vimana. But in the Brihadishwar temple, beyond the inner Gopura stands majestically the Vimana towering over the Gopura. Hence the name Periyakoil or the Big Temple.
The big temple means in the early part of the 10th century and 11th century, this is the temple complex where you can see the huge structural formation of the gateway gopurams as well as the vimanas. What is a gopuram? Any superstructure raised upon the gateways in South Indian architecture should be termed as gopura, whereas if a superstructure raised upon the sanctum sanctorum should be termed as vimana. The very meaning of the Sanskrit term is nothing but it should be treated as beyond the measurement. Although it is in measurement, one has to imagine, since it is identified with the Almighty, should be considered as beyond measurement. So that is the concept of vimana. Vimana is, in another term, represents the parakash and the akash and the smaller kutakash. All the three are combined together. So the concept of the mingling of the kutakash with the parakash is through the vimana concept only. So it stands as a sadhana. So that is the philosophical identification of any vimana here.
The vimana, or the structure above the sanctum sanctorum of the big temple, is 216 feet high. Tall buildings were common in those days. Even in Silappadigaram, the Tamil epic dating back to the 2nd century BC, there are references of 7-storied buildings. The foundation of this huge structure is just 7 feet deep. It is constructed in such a way that the weight of this vimana is evenly distributed on itself. The dome of the vimana rests on a single block of granite measuring 25.5 square feet and weighing 80 tons.
The vimana, the stupendous structure which is measuring to a plinth area of 96 feet into 96 feet, which is prolonging towards the east by 333 feet to a height of 216 feet height, is really a pinnacle in the architectural history of the Chola as well as the South Indians.
Tanjavur is not a rocky area. The nearest area where granite was abundant is Pudukkottai, 72 kilometers away. The 80-ton granite at the top of the vimana is believed to have been brought to its location through this road, now a national highway. This enormous piece of stone, it is believed, was moved into position along an inclined plane of 4 kilometers long. During the Chola regime, the country was very prosperous. Its strong army conquered many countries, going up to Southeast Asian countries like Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. The victorious Cholas brought gold and artisans from the beaten countries, especially from Suvarnabhumi, today's Thailand. Excess wealth was used for building temples and forts. There was a time when the entire vimana was covered with gold. The government was stable, people lived a comfortable life. Time and money was plenty, so nothing was spared to build a great temple. Only the best quality granites were used for the construction of the temple.
For the construction of this great temple, the collection of building materials was started in the year 1006, and they were able to complete the construction work by 1010. That too in April month, 22nd of April 1010. That is the consecration day of the Kalasha Sthavana. Whereas This temple was erected with the usage of single variety of stones, very hard granites only. So the inferior varieties of stones were all thrown out. In the later period of 12th century or 13th century, in the lineage of the Chola, under the fold of the Daughatya lineage, some effort were started then, and the then king has built this Subramanya temple in a very nice form as a model architectural edifice to teach the younger generation of the constructors or the builders, to teach how to make use of different stones in a single construction. Every bit of granite stone was brought forth from a distance of at least 72 kilometers, and the entire complex was built out of granite stones, very hard to chisel as well as in construction.
The pyramidical Vimana has 14 stories. Images of different gods and sub-deities of Hindu pantheon are sculpted on granite on the four sides of the Vimana. On the eastern side of the Vimana is the replica of Mount Kailash, the abode of Lord Shiva. On the four sides of the Vimana, sculptures of the triumvirate Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara can be seen. In general, sculptures facing east have a gracious mood. The Dwarapalakas, or the gatekeepers on either side of the doors, are very big in size and unique in posture. There are 24 pairs of Dwarapalakas, and each one is different from the other. These sculptures are called deep relief work on single stone. Emphasis on strength and power can be noticed on the sculptures of Chola period. Both human and animal figures are huge with strong muscles. This sculpture of an elephant being swallowed by a python, which is being stamped to death by a Dwarapalaka, indirectly suggests the omnipotence of the main deity. Rajaraja himself was a great warrior, having won many battles. That may be another reason for the depiction of so many able-bodied figures in sculptures. The sculpture of Lord Shiva in the victorious form of Tripurantaka is another example of this. In spite of being a Hindu temple, sculptures referring to other religions can also be seen here, probably showing a high level of tolerance to other religions, which is rarely seen in today's world. There are also sculptures of Western figures, Europeans. This is believed to be of Marco Polo and his wife, who visited Tanjavur during the 16th century. It shows that some of the sculptures were made at a later date. The Chola sculptures showed power and beauty. The finis in moulding, the facial and physiological expressions all point to this. Similar sculptures can also be seen in Ellora. It is believed that the artisans brought from Pandinadu were taken to Ellora to build the cave temples. The big temple also acted as a repository of the king's records, as Rajaraja had its walls covered with numerous inscriptions recording his conquests and endowments to various charities. This gives the impression of a progressive city totally dominated by the temple. It also gives us the history of the contemporary society. The inside of the Vimana is hollow, but for the circular rings of construction tapering upwards. There are paintings and sculptures inside. One noteworthy series of sculptures are the 108 postures of Bharatnatyam. This area is under renovation and is out of bound for public. Construction of this temple started when Rajaraja was 19 years old and completed in just 6 years. The original entrance to the Sanctum Sanctorum was from either side of the Vadya Mandapa. When Tanjavur came under the rule of Nayaks, they built steps from the front. The sculpture of Nandi, the vehicle of Lord Shiva, is the second largest in India. This monolithic sculpture is 12 feet high, 19.5 feet long, and weighs 25 tons. It is believed that the Nandi and the Mandapam were built during the Nayaks period. Inside the temple complex, a small temple dedicated to the saintly architect Karur Deva has been built. Those were the times when the Rajashilpi, or the master architect, was a very respectable person. Sitting under this Mandarai tree, Karur Deva took penance before designing this temple. One speciality of South Indian temples is that every temple has to have a water tank. It is expected of the devotees to enter the temple with a clean mind and body. To facilitate personal cleanliness, tanks have been built in old temples. For the big temple, Rajaraja brought water from the Ganges in 108 golden pots and mixed it with the water in the tank, and hence it is called Sivagangai. Today this tank is a major tourist attraction.